and welcome back to another episode of 90s Movie Classics. I am Tim.
And I'm Andrew.
And today our movie is 1992 movie Buffy the Vampire Slayer, to be distinguished from the TV show that followed a few years later. So, maybe this was my choice, but shall we perhaps start with you, Andrew, of what your impressions of Buffy the Vampire Slayer were?
Thanks, Tim. It was an interesting movie to judge because you are judging it as a standalone movie, but you inevitably cannot help judging it against the TV show.
Indeed.
So I'm going to try and touch on both because I think they both have resonance.
Yep.
The short version is that it doesn't stand up that well versus the TV show, but as a standalone movie of its time, a reasonable effort with a mixture of good and bad.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly agree with the first part, that it doesn't stand up to the TV show, and in fact I did go on to rewatch a few episodes, the episodes 1, 2 and 3 of the TV show, just to remind myself what it was actually like. And so I broadly agree, other than to say that I thought the movie was pretty dire overall. But we'll get into that in due course.
Interesting. Like, it had a lot of misses, but I thought there was enough hits to keep the viewer interested.
Yeah, I mean, look, I wasn't bored. I wasn't hating it as such. And look, there's some positives. I thought Kristy Swanson was great. I thought she was a good Buffy.
I agree. I thought she was excellent, and super surprised she really hasn't done much else.
Yeah, agreed.
Like what was that about that which didn't scream do some other stuff?
Yeah, and especially, I mean, I guess it wasn't a huge hit at the time, but even so, it's gained a bit of a cult following. Like, why has no one ever gone back and said, hey, Kristy, let's see what you can do? I mean, I did check. I think she's still acting, but I got to say, I didn't recognise really anything she'd done since 1992. So, yeah, no, I agree. I don't quite understand that.
Did you know some of the other names there, by the way? And I could spot some of these people. Mm-hmm. Hilary Swank.
Oh, yep, I do remember seeing her at the time.
Affleck.
Really?
Yep.
Missed that one.
And David Arquette, obviously.
Oh, of course. Oh, wow.
Anyway, side point. Keep going. Things you liked.
Okay, so I mean, I liked the concept, which obviously, from what I gather, Joss Whedon came up with the concept, didn't really like how it was portrayed in the movie, and ultimately had a lot more control in the TV show, which I think probably shows. But I thought that the concept was fundamentally really clever. I thought it was a lot better from the moment when Buffy accepted her role and when she accepted that she was a Slayer and just started kicking some ass, because I thought before that, I thought she was pretty painful. I'm just jumping into some negatives, but I thought the first 20 or 30 minutes when she was a real sort of vacuous high school girl who wasn't really responding to Donald Sutherland's attempts to turn her into a Slayer, I was just hating her for that first 20 or so minutes.
I kind of concur in that I put down that I thought she had a really strong character arc, which I think is a nice way of saying that once she evolved, it got a lot better. So, I hear you.
I'll give you that one. I thought it was consistently amusing without being particularly laugh-out-loud funny, I thought. In fact, funnily enough, I thought probably the best line in the whole movie was in the closing credits, that moment when I think it was the principal goes, well, a lot of the students learned a lesson of safety. Well, not the dead ones. I mean, I suppose they learned it, just didn't really have time to implement it. That was what a great line. Unfortunately, literally in the closing credits.
You see, I thought it was infrequently quite amusing. The long death scene for Wee Herman.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm right there on that one. And there was a few lines that I saw from later Buffy. I think there was a bit of "What's your damage?" in there. There was some early hints of like class. I think Principal Flutie's early appearance was absolute genius. Mm-hmm. But yes, I think I would probably concur overall that it was more sort of quirk rather than comedy.
I think that's right, and exactly right. I kept waiting for it to be genuinely funny, as of course the TV show came out was, and it just never quite made it.
So tell me, I've rewatched a bit of Buffy the TV show in my time as well. Remarkable how little it's aged.
Yes.
While this, I thought, was a real mix of dated and slick. There was some really dated parts in there. The look, the lines, the outfits, with some things in there that were a bit ahead of their time.
Yeah. Oh, look, I mean, I thought it looked incredibly cheap for most of it, and really, in a sense, quite amateurish, I thought. And in fact, to the point where I did go back and... Because I always think, I mean, the Buffy TV show obviously is 90s, so the special effects are comically bad compared to 2023. But when I went back and watched the TV show, my goodness, it was a slick production compared to the movie. It was, I don't know what the budget of the movie was, but it must have been 100th of what the TV show was, because it really did look pretty amateurish, I thought. And I mean, since I've naturally slipped into the negatives, I thought some of the acting was just really poor, including, with all due respect to him, I thought Luke Perry was pretty bad.
I thought he was diabolical.
Yeah.
Essentially, this is why the career, respect the dead, this is why the career didn't go much further than 90210.
Yep.
I still cannot quite work out Donald Sutherland, Rutger Hauer and Wee Herman. At that age, all were names. Even Wee Herman was a name.
Yep.
Donald Sutherland was like an Oscar winner. Rutger Hauer, I think, was going through a dip. But we're not that far removed from Ladyhawke here.
Yep.
And not that far removed from Blade Runner, which is iconic. Like, did they know people? Did they... They can't have been paid much, or were they paid everything?
Yeah. Did Joss Whedon have photos of them that they couldn't get away from? I mean, and look, I thought, well, speaking of them, I thought...
they mailed it in? Would that be the expression you're looking for?
I thought Donald Sutherland was good. I thought he was one of the high points of the movie. But I almost need a whole separate section to talk about Rutger Hauer, who, look, I love the man, absolutely respect him as an actor, but this was not just a low point in Rutger Hauer's career, but a low point in acting and cinema generally.
Right.
I thought it was just unbelievably awful from moment one until the end of the movie. I have a lot more to say on this, but what is your views on the Rutger position?
I'm going to have to concur. and the lack of a bad guy that I cared about was an issue for the movie. It could have been so bad it was good, funny, but it wasn't, because it lacked... You were somewhere between I don't care, just kill him already because he's annoying. Like, it took away the good bad guy. Ironically, I need to stop doing this, but one of the real strengths of the TV show, as we have previously discussed, genius bad guys, particularly season 2, 3, 4. And then when we had a not so good bad guy in season 5, I think it was quite a lesser show.
And look, and even having just watched the first few episodes, I mean, the Master was sort of the big baddie in season 1. And look, God, compared to Rutger Hauer, my good. And look, I mean, let's start with the fact that I know it was the 90s, but my God, that hair and moustache, what was going on? It was just freaking awful. But just, I mean, as you say, not at all funny, even though I think he was supposed to be. Definitely not scary, and I'm not sure if he was supposed to be or not. And just the scene where Buffy meets him during the dance, it was supposed to be the kind of the big encounter, I guess. And just none of it made any sense. Like, I don't know if something was cut out that was supposed to explain it, but it was never clear why he didn't just kill her in the first place. He seemed to want something from her, but that was never made clear. Then she weirdly gets hypnotized by him for no particular reason. He then grabs a crucifix and it starts to burn, despite the fact there's no obvious reason, like nothing to suggest she knew that was going to happen. And then the special effects, when she shot the hairspray at him and it lights him on fire... Man, I think I could have come up with better special effects with a texture than was displayed. It was just so bad. And just what was he even trying to do? What was his power? Why was he even a baddie? Like, he's supposedly been around thousands of years, and he dies in this like lame fight with a newly trained Slayer. Like, what did Buffy possibly have that could have taken care of a 1,000-year-old vampire?
That was one of my points. The final kill is quite lame.
Yeah.
Like we waited all that long for it, and that's what we got.
Yep.
But I thought generically the vampires were a bit lame.
Yep.
Like they you really were, Kristy Swanson has broad shoulders because she was carrying the movie, quite frankly.
Oh, completely.
Because the bad guys were not helping her out, quite frankly.
So interesting difference I noticed between the show and the movie, that in the movie the vampires don't puff away in a puff of dust. And so, I mean, logically there must be vampire corpses all over Sunnydale. Oh, sorry, not Sunnydale, they were in LA, weren't they? Which I think is a fundamental plot to difficulty that no doubt they got rid of. Yeah, they very clearly got rid of quickly in the TV show. I did liked in the sense that it was ridiculous, the boyfriend of Buffy who breaks up with her, who's just like the comically evil jock. Just absolutely no attempt to make him a real human being whatsoever. He says, no, he is a jock, and he is absolutely a fundamental evil human being. Love it.
I do think we have to pay credit and pay homage, though, to the iconic use of the dance scene.
Yes.
And in particular, the ball outfit. I actually remembered her outfit, which she then wears for the final scene.
Yep.
Like, that has stood the test of time and may have reverberated in some later teen movies that we've run through or might run through in the future. So
indeed. No,
I did feel that deserves a call out, respect. Maybe they used all their budget on that outfit.
Yes. Anyway. I did think again, look, this is always a bit of a problem with, I think it's been a problem with the TV show as well, but just the basketball scene where suddenly one of the players was just obviously a vampire. Like, had vampire ears, vampire fangs, and just no one seems to notice. Everyone's just cheering on the game as if it's a normal game. I'm just like, there's no internal consistency here.
I got that. Are we supposed to realise they're vampires or not?
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Odd.
So, yeah, look, I don't have much. Well, sorry, we should talk about, it's probably fairly obvious, but how has it stood the test of time? What if that same movie was released in 2023?
It's a difficult one to judge. Interesting, this is early 90s, where some of the others we've looked at have been mid or late 90s.
Yep.
I don't know whether special effects and maybe budget is a big driver here, just took a major step forward over those few years. Because you can't envision that movie now, because it wouldn't get made like that. It wouldn't look like that. Even the cheapest Tubi TV thing would look better than that.
Yeah, so, that is exactly. Yeah, that is certainly true. It's hard to imagine a movie looking that terrible. Although I think we have to keep in mind it's clearly a budget thing as such. This was 1 year after Terminator 2 was released and 1 year before Jurassic Park was released. So I'm not sure we can blame the 90s completely for that. But yeah, it's true. You needed a significant Terminator 2 Jurassic Park style budget to make a movie look really good, and clearly they didn't have that.
So this was 93? 92?
I think it was, 1992. Yeah.
I'd be remiss if I didn't say that my partner liked it, certainly liked it more than me, and picked it as having a female director. That apparently that resonated through certain scenes in the movie.
Yep.
With the budget that they had to deal with, I wonder why the director didn't get another shot.
Yeah.
Or did they... It had charm.
Yeah. Agreed. Exactly right. She... From Internet Movie Database, I haven't researched her personal background, but yeah, it seems that she has never directed another movie. She was an executive producer on Angel for most of its run. So yeah, it's not that she faded away completely, but she obviously decided this was her one and only director shot, and yeah, for whatever reason, either chose not to do another one or was not given the option. But as you say, if Uwe Boll can make 10 movies, why is it that Fran Kazooie, I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong, can't make at least a second one?
Couple of final points. An area where it really struggled versus the TV show was the credits. The credits were just wrong. Buffy has iconic opening credits, iconic music.
Yep, that's fair goal.
And this didn't have it.
Yep.
And knowing what we now know about Joss Whedon, I couldn't quite forget that.
Yeah, God, that is a topic for an entire podcast or an entire series of podcasts. But yeah, I agreed. Makes it difficult. He was only the writer here, but it was very much his creation. But yes, I agree. I don't know quite how to feel about that one. I agree. It's difficult to put that one in the back of my mind.
And lastly, the fight scenes. Buffy, the TV show, from memory, really did a surprisingly good job with the fight scenes, considering a number of physical limitations around differential size of the protagonists, TV, time, had to be PG, special effects. They were really quite decent.
Yeah, well, we're not talking John Wick here, but they were pretty good.
And these were pretty clunky.
Yeah, I thought so. It was, no, I would definitely agree with you on that one.
Anyway, any final comments?
Oh, look, would we watch it again? Absolutely not. I can't see any situation where I would turn on Buffy the Vampire Slayer again, other than to maybe convince myself in 20 years that it was really as bad as I remembered it.
You see, I think it's got to rewatch in 20 years.
Wow,
I think in the 90s Classics podcast version 2040.
Indeed.
I think it's got another rewatch.
Oh, fair enough. You're a braver man than I. Okay. Right. Well, if we're done talking about Buffy, then we can move forward to the next selection, which of course is yours. So hit me with it.
I'm quite excited to announce that the next selection that we watch will be 1999's Idle Hands.
Now. Okay, remind me. I'm pretty sure I've seen it, but remind me what it's about and who's in it.
You certainly have.
Am I thinking Heath Ledger?
You are not.
I am not.
That is Two Hands. Australian movie.
There you go.
Idle Hands, completely different.
Right.
Idle Hands the lead is Devon Sawyer from Final Destination.
Yes.
Early Seth Green work from, as aforementioned, Buffy the Vampire Slayer TV series, Austin Powers, a few other things.
He would have already been in Buffy at least by that stage, wouldn't he? Yep.
Eldon Henson, who was kind of a 90s character actor in She's All That, amongst other things.
Masterpiece, obviously.
But the key name is Jessica Alba's first movie, where we first became aware, first movie we were aware of, we first became aware of Jessica Alba.
So is this before Dark Angel? Or?
Yes.
Right.
This is 1999. I am pretty sure Dark Angel, I mean, it could have been like it was filmed first or whatever, but we definitely became aware of her in this for the first time. I certainly did.
Okay. And remind me, horror?
Sort of a schlock horror, comedy horror. So the tagline is a teenage slacker's right hand becomes possessed with murderous intent.
How can it go wrong?
6.2 out of 10 on IMDb, which actually for that kind of movie is a relatively high rating.
Indeed.
And I recall it being like surprisingly good.
Yep.
Like we came out of it like, we are not expecting a masterpiece here, but we came out of it going, man, that was really, really quite decent.
So we saw it in the cinema, did we?
I am almost certain we saw it at the cinema.
Interesting.
I'm anticipating it had one of these like 3-week cinema runs.
Yep.
But as reflected by the fact we're making a podcast about 90s classics, we did not let a lot of teen movies slip us by.
Absolutely. We would have been there on the Thursday night opening night, by ourselves in the cinema, no doubt.
Oh, completely. The director, never heard of him. Right. Someone by the name of Rodman Flender. A great name, that one.
Good name.
Rodman has done a huge amount of TV episodes of a lot of shows that we know, like The Office, the Scream TV series, 10 Things I Hate About You TV show, Ugly Betty, quite a lot of stuff. More back in the day, the OC, so Gilmore Girls, a lot of stuff, but not much in the way of movies. No other movie. From a quick research, nothing else jumped out at me. He'll always have this.
Yeah, so, exactly.
So I'm, and I've only seen it once. Saw it once at I was working in the video store in those days, so I couldn't rule out it's the kind of thing that I watched immediately upon it came out on video, but I certainly haven't seen it in 23 years. If I saw it twice, it was twice in like 1 year, and then not since then.
Interesting. Well, as you can probably gather, I mean, I do remember it. I certainly remember the title. I'm not denying that we saw it, but I have to say I have no independent recollection of it whatsoever. So I am super pumped to check it out, and to see what sort of memories it brings back.
Until next time.
Indeed. Until next time.